Hey, it's Sandra. Welcome to another episode of Asexualized, My Sexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that great big subscribe button right now below this video. Don't forget to hit that great big bell icon to get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as we're going along if you're enjoying the content. If you don't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of this beautiful book, Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, a celebration of asexual diversity. I'm also the founder of asexualise.com and the founder of Asexualise Academy. Well, welcome to tonight's special episode. And tonight I'm going to be talking about what is it like in the life of an asexual author. So obviously this is my first book I published for asexuals, and I'm also working on my second book for asexuals, which was originally called Asexual Sex Stories, The Good, the Bad and the Fugly. However, it's now changed to an Asexual Guide to Sex, how to have sex as an asexual, asexual sex stories, asexual advice, asexual help, asexual guidance. Well, it's asexual, well, it's actually sex help, sex guidance, and what's the other thing I said? Completely gone out of my head right now. But yeah, so it's help, advice and guidance, but instead of it saying asexual, it says sex in front of it. But yeah, so it's two long titles basically. So I thought I'd explain to you. So yeah, it's called Asexual Guide to Sex, how to have sex if you're asexual, real life asexual sex stories with sex advice, sex help and sex guidance. That's the new title. So I thought you might like to know what I do in a day as an author, right? Because I really love being an author. So what happened this morning when I first got up is I printed all this stuff out, which I had ready the night before, which was to do with the book proposal I did for the publisher. Now, I spoke before that I had a publisher interested in publishing the book, a traditional publisher, but I was going to publish it anyway on my own imprint. And as it happens, it's not suitable for their list because of the content. So they said it will definitely sell. There's definitely a market for it, so that's great. And then now I'm continuing to publishing it under my own imprint, which I was doing in the first place. I'm still interested in a couple of my other books that are going to be out for asexuals in the future. Anyway, so the proposal I did for them, because even though they approached me, the publisher, so I had to do a proposal for this book because it's one that hasn't been finished written yet. Like this is whole. The other one isn't. So basically what happened is I printed off a lot of the information I did for them, and it was really good to do the proposal because I had to write all chapter summaries, so I had to get all my books sorted. So I'm literally set up. So but I realized with the title change from an Asexual Sex Stories, The Good, Bad and the Fugly book that it was originally going to be called, I realized now with the help of the editor saying, why don't you call it Asexual Guide to Sex? And it was originally I had the concept, right, of having an Asexual Guide to Sex for absolute beginners and Asexual Sex Stories, The Good, the Bad and the Fugly. I started writing the book actually in 2017, which I started doing the questionnaires this June, and I started actually writing the rest of the book. Well, I said I started writing the book, but actually I did start because I actually wrote part of the Asexual Guide to Sex for absolute beginners years ago. I actually found that stuff I'd already written from 2017. It was the Asexual Sex Stories book that I never started. So by amalgamating the two, I've already got some information that I wrote years ago for it, which was really helpful. And it managed to get all my chapter outlines and everything done. So I know where I'm going. I've got a template now. So whenever you're doing a book, any sort of book, you need to have an outline really of the chapter summaries you're doing, so you know what's going to be fitting into the book. I mean, sometimes you don't know all the book. Actually, people tend to do the front matter, what's called the front matter. So the introduction, the preface, all that lot, they tend to do that at the end rather than the beginning. And then the bulk of the story is done earlier on. And not many people know that. So usually they do an outline and then they get the bulk of the middle done, and because it can change the introduction. It can change. But so anyway, after I'd done the proposal, I kept all that information and I used it because now it's changed its title to an Asexual Guide to Sex. How to Have Sex as an Asexual, it's all about help, advice, and guidance, not just about sex stories, because I amalgamated the idea of how basically to have sex with the sex stories. So in its new format, there was more questions I had to ask asexual interviewees, which is what I was getting ready. So this morning I printed all this off. And I wrote all, like I underlined a lot of it. I spent 2.5 hours going through all this stuff, which was to do with who the book's intended for and everything, the description of the book, and the book outline and everything like this. So I've already got all this information, and then I make loads of notes, because I have to think of the questions that every asexual will be wanting to know if they've never had sex before, because this book is for asexuals who've never had sex before and need a guide to it, right? And you have to take yourself back 2 years ago if you've not had, I've had sex in the past, and so is everyone who contributed and contributes still to this book, the interviewees, right? But because I had sex in the past, I have to take myself back in time. Printer's got a mind of its own. I have to take myself back in time to when I hadn't had sex, and all the questions that I would be asking if I was interested in trying sex and I was asexual, never had sex before. If that was unfortunately, I didn't know I was asexual back then. So part of the morning, I call it like the hour of power. Like if you get straight up straight away, so 9 o'clock I had my alarm off, and for over 2.5 hours it was just solid working on my book. And so I printed all this off, I wrote all these notes, I decided what questions I was going to write. So this is what I spent ages doing this morning, all these questions. Like, as you can see, they're scribbly. I'm not gonna, because I'm scribbling all these questions down. And when you're a writer and you're in flow, you have to scribble them down. It doesn't matter about spelling errors and stuff, because this I was going to type up anyway, and I knew that. You've got to get it all out of your head, and then all your points you have to number and try and put them in order, and then you think of other points. So, you go from this stuff to like highlighting stuff, then you go to this draft of something, and then you go to this, which is the final questions with the little bit of errors I've corrected in the spelling. So it's quite a long, lengthy process. So I spent 2.5 hours doing this stuff this morning, and then my printer had decided that there wasn't much paper left in it. So I had a lunch, I had a shower, did some exercise, exercise first, then shower, then I had lunch. Now, normally I'd get up, I'd have my exercises first, then go in the shower, then do some book work. But sometimes what I call your hour of power, when you first get up, is when you're most intuitive, most creative, and you want to get stuff done, basically. So sometimes it's better if I do the opposite way around. So I literally am creative and fresh to just get stuck into it. So I just did all this. And then I thought, damn, they're really good questions, really, really good questions, intense, really good questions, make you think. Even as an interviewee, they're going to be thinking about these a lot, because they're intense questions. And they're intense questions even for me, trying to answer them in my own book, So, but it's good. It pushes your boundaries a bit. And this is the type of questions that asexuals would be thinking about. So I'm really, really excited about this book, And so, you go from this to this, and then you go, like I said, to this. So this is an introduction to my asexual interviewees, to give them a lowdown on what's happening with this book, so they're informed. And then it's got a further 3 pages of questions. So it's quite a lot, mind you. I have split up into, like lots of sections. So the good thing is I won't need any more people really to be interviewed for the book now. I've got 14 in total. I was thinking originally to get more, but it's going to make the book too long if I have too many more anyway. So I'm really happy with the people I've got. And once they answer these questions, it's going to be quite, it's going to be a good book. Not as big as my other one, because people have said how big it is, the other one. And also, I can put a slightly smaller price point on it if it's a little bit smaller. But having said that, with all these new questions, it might turn out to be a mega big book again. So, but, these are really good questions that asexuals do need to know, This Asexual Guide to Sex book is a book that I would love to have had if I knew I was asexual years ago, when I first started thinking about sex. And you know, and what to expect. It's a book that I wish loads of people have. It's a book where, you know, you can make an informed decision about whether sex is right for you or not, and learn from other people's experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly experiences. And you can, you know, get sound advice from people who've done it before, you know. And I think this book is going to be revolutionary in the actual category of sex. You know, I think it's going to be one of the best sex books ever written, ironically, bisexual, asexuals instead of sexuals, not bisexuals. That's what I meant to say. I think ironically it's going to be the best sex book that's not written by sexuals but by asexuals, because I just think it's so informative. I mean, I don't really read sex books. I mean, other than my Asexual Perspectives book, you know, this one here has got bit about sex in it, love, life, and sex, a celebration of asexual diversity. But I don't really read. I do read, you know, for information. I do read some blog articles and stuff. Some of it's a bit icky sometimes, but you know, because I help you guys on this channel, and it's good to know what's going on in the outside world a little bit sometimes for information purposes. And obviously, to write this book, I kind of need to know a little bit more, because, you know, some of the terms of sexual positions, I'm not, you know, clued up on every one of them, because I'm not interested in sex. So if someone writes in the book a certain position they did, and I know what they're talking about, I kind of have to look it up. But you know, it's a really good book. I think it's going to be one of the most insightful books about sex that you'll ever read in your life, whether you're asexual or sexual, to be quite honest with you. But I want it to help asexuals. Asexuals need my help. I know so many asexuals that will get into relationships with sexuals, because, you know, we're 1% of the population, so we're bound to run into more sexuals for a relationship than asexuals, and therefore we're more tempted to try and have sex so that we can have a relationship. I know it's very sad in lots of ways that we have to put ourselves even in that mindset of maybe trying it, because, you know, if we want a partner and they happen to be sexual, we kind of want to please them. And I think that's a bit sad. But also, not every asexual finds sex repulsive. Some asexuals, they just like to try it as an activity to do. They're intrigued by it. They're curious about it. They want to give it a go. So it's no hardship for them or problem. Do you know what I mean? So they don't need to feel sad about it. But yeah, so this is what I do. So when I'd done, you know, this is the morning bit that I'd done, printed this off. Then I'd written this, and then I had to go out, you know, to get this printer paper. And I've got a guy on ASAP messaging me at the moment who seems a really sweet, nice person. And so I was messaging him for quite a while. We seem to get on well, but they're younger than I would usually go for romantically. But they seem like a really nice person to just at least be friends with. And so, yeah, I was heading into the city trying to message them back. And then I got the printer paper, and then I came home. And then, like, I have to, you know, then type all the questions up. So now I spent ages typing these up, because although these are in Scribble, you know, I've ordered them and then I've renumbered some of them again a few times. So, you know, I have to put them in a logical sequence. I put them in a logical sequence, type them up and print them out. And now I've got to then, I had to break for food because I get low blood sugar. It's kind of hard as an author sometimes when you've got a lot of work to do, because if your blood sugar levels goes down, you can't concentrate on doing any more work. So you have to leave it a bit, have some food, then come back to it, and then start going through it again. And so this, I then have to email to all my interviewees in the book. And there's 14 of them. So 3 I've got through so far. So this is my little, I can't show you this but I basically got people's names on this book that I'll be emailing all the questions to. And then they'll have to try and fit it around their work. So, yeah, it's a combination of writing, of getting the questions right, putting yourself in the position of your audience, the reader. It's really, really important to extract all the information from the interviewees for what an asexual person would really want to know about sex. You know, I have to put myself in their position. I think if I was starting from scratch, never had sex before in my life, what would I want to know about it? What would be my fears? What would be my anxieties? What would be my worries? What would be my concerns? What questions would I ask my best friend? You know, that's the type of questions that are in this book. Questions you'd be wanting to ask your best friend, but like you don't want to ask anyone, because you don't know if you can trust them, and also it's a bit weird asking questions, beginner questions about sex, like everyone's supposed to know about it, aren't they? So that's what I have to do. I have to put myself in the position of those people. I do writing, and then I do some editing, and I've still got more stories to go through to edit some of their first answers, but it's really important as well that I look after my health, because when you do get low blood sugar, you have to keep eating regularly, and you have to make sure you get some sleep as well. I didn't have much sleep last night. I think it was about 4.5 hours before I'm up again working on the book. So at the moment, I'm still doing stuff for the fibro book, fibromyalgia self-help handbook, and I'm doing stuff for this. And I had a message from the editor on Friday saying they're interested in my 2 of my other books. And so one person who approached me on this channel, actually, they're interested already in the next book. So in this month, I'll probably be getting the questions out for that one. So I'm going to have like 3 books on the go at once. And that can get very manic as a writer, as an author, especially when I have other business stuff that I have to finish off as well. So it can all get a bit manic, but I love writing. It's my hugest passion. And to just be able to give a piece of myself to this world and help facilitate the voices of other asexuals around the globe through the interviewees, it's just incredible. The interviewees that I've had for this book have been absolutely amazing, incredible, giving their very, very personal, intimate details, sharing them to help you. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to do that. I'm telling you, a lot of guts. A lot of people don't want to do it, but if they don't do it, who else is going to do it? Who else is going to give you that insight? Yeah, you can read fictitious stuff in books and magazines. A lot of it's made up and theoretical. It doesn't tell you the hard hitting truth of what it's actually really like to be in a relationship with a sexual person and to have sex and everything that goes with that. It's all very matter of fact, mechanical. It's not actually getting to the nitty gritty, emotionally, feeling, practicalities, and that's what this book will do. And I'm very passionate about this book, very passionate, because I think it's so unique. So many years, sexuals have been saying what sex is like for them. It's about time asexuals finally got to say what it feels like to them, which is the asexual sex stories part. Finally, we're going to have our say, how it really feels for us. So hopefully, if some sexuals read, they're going to understand us on a much more deeper level. I want the book to go viral. I want it to be a bestseller. I will do whatever it takes to try my best to get it noticed. The most important thing above all this is that asexuals see it, that people that need the book the most, the people that are scared, worried, skeptical about having sex but really want to try it out for whatever reason, they're going to be the ones who benefit from it. And that's why I love writing non-fiction. I love writing non-fiction because it helps people. And this book will be published through my own publishing company. It will be available to buy in bookstores again, on order from bookstores, because I have it on expanded distribution like this one. This is in the British Library. It's in about 5 other libraries around the UK. So it's about 6 in total, and so it's just going to be there as a lasting legacy. And that's what I want to do. It's important that I strive to get as many books out about asexuality as possible, because I really want to spread the message. It's so important that I flood the market with good quality books for asexuals. So it helps asexuals, but also it gets it recognised more as an orientation. The more we get our books out there, the more we get our merchandise out there, more people will take us seriously. And that's what I want. I want asexuality to be taken seriously. I want people to understand that not everyone wants sex, and that's okay. I want that to be the message for the children of tomorrow. I want that to be the message for people today. I want it to be drummed into people's heads that there is the option that not everyone wants sex. I don't expect everyone to be like me and want a sex-free life. That's not what I'm after. I'm after more equality, where it's recognised and valid and perfectly fine that not everyone in a relationship wants to have sex, and it still be a loving, healthy relationship. I just don't like the fact that it's shoved down people's throats from society and everywhere that you've got to have sex in order to have a loving, healthy, happy relationship. It simply isn't true. It's very, very bad thinking, very bad conditioning. And, until society accepts the fact that some people don't want sex, it makes it harder. Makes it harder for kids these days. If they don't want sex, they feel a lot of peer pressure. They feel left out. They don't know why they are the way they are. They can't understand it. And instead, I just want them to be able to go somewhere and say, oh, hi, yeah, I'm asexual, that makes sense, and carry on with their life and not worry about it and get stressed out of it, about it, you know? So that's why I do my work as an author. You know, I love it. Writing is my hugest passion. And to combine it with asexuality is the best thing in the world. You know, I want to be working from home full time as a writer. You know, that's what I want to do and write books forever and a day because that's my dream. That is literally my dream, to just write books to help people. I just love it so much. And books are a bit different, you know, like this book I purposely kept as, you know, American spelling and British because I want people to keep in their own dialogues, their own dialects and their own spellings, whether in the USA or the UK. I want it to be a real book with the language, not just with the content. Do you know what I mean? And so it's so important, you know, like that's not normally done. You either pick the American English or the British English version. You don't do both usually when you're publishing a book. But I wanted it so much. I just thought it was the right thing to have, you know. I just like the grittiness. I like being a self-published or on my own imprint because it's gritty, it's raw, it's not polished. It's polished in the sense of being edited about 15 times or more, probably this book, but it's very earthy. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not putting on latch, you know, like with the publishing company that, you know, is interested in me and my books. It was on about this one and it wanted to cut loads of the stories out in order to publish it under their own imprint and get rid of my reviews on Amazon and stop selling it in my own right. Imagine the people who took part in this book that will have their stories cut, never to return again, and all the work and effort they put into it. You know, the fact I'd have to take it completely off the market or under my own imprint, so all those would be gone, apart from in the libraries. You know, and so I don't think that's fair and I don't think it's right, you know, and it's because to a certain extent the publisher wants to edit it so that they can give the version that they think the reader should know, not the full version. And that's censorship. Do you know what I mean? And so I understand where they're coming from. I understand why they have to do it because of their branding. However, you know, my branding is all about being quirky. It's all about having books that are different. It's about not swaying people on purpose to think a certain way, because to me that is censorship. And you know, that's what people do all the time with sex. They literally, through society, they manipulate people, brainwash people into believing that sex is normal, natural in every relationship and everyone should have it. And that's what part of the problem is with the world. So I'm glad that I said to the publisher that they weren't having this book, that I am definitely keeping it in my own imprint, you know. So I've decided that now. You know, as much as I'd love to see my work in some ways by a traditional publisher, I said no to them for this one because I don't want them persuading. I don't want them taking a lot of stories away and changing it. And, you know, I don't think that's fair. And I don't want this to be, the stories in it to be silenced. You know, I want, the whole point of this book was to do a variation across the asexual spectrum so they can see the difference of the spectrum rather than just being given textbook definitions. You take half the stories out, you can't see it as well. You can't get a good flavour of everything, you know? And I know it's a long book, but I purposely did that for my first book. You know, this book that I'm working on at the moment will probably be, you know, 3/4 of that size at the most. But it's already 217 in Kindle. But this one's like, you know, like over 530 in, I think it's like 550 or something. Yeah, 500 and just over 543, you know? So it's important that, you know, you be true to who you are, and that if you're an author yourself, if you want to keep your work for yourself or you want to keep your work as it is, it's much better, in my opinion, to be self-published, you know? I'm glad that I'm self-publishing the Asexual Guide to Sex, but they're interested in that one too, but I'm glad I'm doing that one because I know I can make that book the best. And I know that without it being censored, it's going to be far better for asexuals. Because if you have censorship, you only show the good sides of sex. That is dangerous for asexuals because they don't know what they're letting themselves in for. They don't know anything that could go wrong or any mistakes that could be made. And that is worse to me than explaining things that could go wrong, you know? Whilst I don't want asexuals to be scared of having sex, because, you know, there isn't an actual need to be scared of having sex unless they feel scared of having it and don't want it, you know? Then, you know, I don't want that type of stuff to be censored. I don't want things to be cut to pretty things up and not be realistic. You know, I wished some people when I was a kid, younger, teenager, had told me what type of things to expect in sex, including things that aren't so good about it. Because, you know, then you know what to expect, and then you can work out situations that might crop up and you know what to do about them because you've learned those experiences for other people, if you know what I mean. So I think it's very good to be able to publish in your own right, because there's a lot of benefits to it, because I know the book will help people because I'm publishing it myself, you know. I know that I won't censor things, and therefore people will be able to make an informed choice or decision and get the whole picture. And I think that's why it's really important that asexuals really do tell their own personal sex story, and as it's different for every asexual, you know. And when I'm working with interviewees, you know, it's backwards and forwards emailing, so that takes a long time, especially when you've got to read through their answers and see if it makes sense to you to make sense to the reader. So all that's got to be done. So yeah, the day in the life of an author is pretty amazing. I love my life as an author. I wouldn't swap it for the world. Doesn't make it easy all the time. The editing's the hardest part for me, and getting it all coherent into some sort of a semblance of order, but in my own style. You know, in a style where it's very interviewy, if you know what I mean. That's my style, really. That's what I like, because I kind of like the interview style where everyone starts off equal and they go into their own thing. I just think it gives a more equal picture, if you know what I mean, which is what I want people to have. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful in some way. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Please share it with a friend or anyone you think may benefit, a fellow author perhaps. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the great big subscribe button down below. Hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live right now and post a new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, like I said, if you're enjoying the content. Until next time, embrace your quirky and each other's, and I will see you on the next live stream or video. Take care. Bye for now. Bye.